hand water everything. No running. Here we are in our chicory and lettuce field, my aster field. This is the early Treviso variety. I hated chicories before I started farming, and am now a total convert. Can't live without a radicchio salad all winter. So I'm growing 2 beds of radicchio, or chicories, Treviso, early Treviso. Radicchio is kind of like a common name. This variety is early Treviso. There's also a late Treviso that looks like spaghetti. It's weird. But I was coming out here and noticing that while I got ahead of the weeds with a tarp and then with tilling, then transplanted, but since then I see all these little what we call thread weeds coming up. So that is a weed that is just like the tiny little cotyledons and a little thread that is the root. So it's like very small and easy to uproot. So I like to weed really early when we can get to it. As you see, it doesn't always happen. But here, the best strategy is to use a hula hoe. So we've got 3 different sizes of hula hoe, but this is the biggest. I'm always going to default to the biggest because that's less body movement. When I use a hula hoe is also called a scuffle hoe. And it's a scuffle hoe because you move it, you scuffle it back and forth. It's got 2 bevels on each side, so you can weed with the push stroke and the pull stroke. When choosing a hand tool, you want to make sure it's the right size, otherwise you're going to end up like hurting yourself. Ergonomics is super important when doing tasks repeatedly or for a long time, or day over day over day, as we do here on the farm. So with a hula hoe, I like to position my body toward the bed, and then I try to kind of turn at the waist to look at my hula hoe if I need to look at it. Sometimes I don't. And then I just make like really small scuffling motions, because the weeds that are on the very, very top are so small that if I just uproot them and then the sun gets at them, or if I uproot them and the sun doesn't get out at them, but they don't get watered, then the roots or those little tiny thread weeds will die. And you can see I already weeded almost like 10 feet of this bed, which goes so much faster, and I get to be upright than if I waited a little bit longer and went to like use a hand hoe or just pull weeds with my hands. So that is how I weed with a hula hoe. But if you notice, I have got 3, and we started putting drip tape down but didn't finish, so I'm just gonna move it. But we've got 3 rows of chicories within this bed. So to weed the best possible way, I'll then go backwards along the other side of the lawn. So we call that method like weaving, well, not really weaving, just like along the top and along the bottom of a row. We call that brushing. And when I then move to the diagonal to hit this, like if I brushed here and I brushed here, then the only spot I haven't hit is right between the plants. And so I could do that 300 times, and then do it on the next row 300 times, and then the next 3, so 900 strokes. Or I could just come back afterward and what we call floss. And so I weave the right in between it diagonally, and it hits all those spots that I didn't already hit. I just think it's easy language to use when talking to a crew. Like, I already brushed the top row if you want to brush the next row, or all the brushing is done if you want to start flossing. It's just nice to have like kind of common language for us all to use. And especially around the hula hoe, because the more weeding we can get done with the hula hoe, the less difficult it is on our bodies.